Imagine for a moment you're standing at the edge of a cliff, overlooking a vast and infinite landscape. You've spent years working tirelessly, thinking you've learned everything there is to know about success, about wealth, about how the world works. But what if I told you that there's a simple, yet profound, pattern that has been right in front of you all along? A pattern so powerful that once you see it, everything you know about how the world operates will be forever changed. There is a secret that many overlook, a key to understanding the most important financial shifts that could affect you, your business, your future. This secret is found in something as common as silver, a commodity often overshadowed by gold and the loud noise of more popular investments. But behind silver lies an undeniable truth. This truth is about mathematics, cycles, and the forces that shape the course of history itself. It's the kind of discovery that turns the impossible into the possible, the unknown into the known, and it all starts with a number. You see, numbers aren't just numbers. They are the language of the universe. And just like the vast cycles that drive the economy, silver holds a pattern that reveals something profound about our future. It's not just about silver's price or its scarcity. It's about understanding the larger forces that govern the market, human behavior, and the very foundations of wealth itself. The silver math I'm talking about is not just about investment. It's about how the world moves in predictable patterns and how you can use these patterns to your advantage. Let me ask you this: have you ever truly paid attention to the cycles that shape our lives, economies, and decisions? Most people don't. They rush through their daily routines, focusing on what's directly in front of them, never stopping to consider the underlying patterns that govern everything. But the reality is, everything, absolutely everything, operates in cycles. The rise and fall of companies, the boom and bust of economies, the ebb and flow of financial markets, they all follow similar patterns. The key to mastering any of these areas lies in recognizing these cycles, understanding their rhythm, and positioning yourself to take advantage of them. At first glance, cycles can seem like random events. The price of silver, for example, may seem unpredictable. One day it's up, the next day it's down. But if you take a step back and examine the broader picture, you'll start to notice a predictable pattern that repeats itself over time. The silver market, like every other market, is cyclical. There are times of rapid growth where silver prices soar, followed by periods of contraction where prices fall. These cycles are driven by a combination of factors: supply and demand, geopolitical events, economic shifts, and human behavior. But why do these cycles exist in the first place? And how can you use this understanding to your advantage? The first thing to realize is that cycles are natural. They are the result of human behavior and economic forces that are ingrained in the way the world works. We as human beings are influenced by emotions, by fear and greed, by our desires and anxieties. These emotional impulses often dictate our decisions, whether in investing, buying, or even selling. It's this emotional reaction to market forces that drives the cyclical nature of prices. When people feel confident about the economy, they tend to invest more. They buy more silver. They drive prices up, creating a cycle of growth. But when uncertainty creeps in, when fear takes hold, the opposite happens. People sell, prices fall, and the cycle contracts. This pattern repeats itself over and over again. Now you might be wondering, how can I see this cycle coming? How can I position myself before the growth or contraction happens? The answer lies in recognizing the stages of the cycle. There are typically 4 key phases in any economic or market cycle: expansion, peak, contraction, and trough. Each phase has distinct characteristics, and understanding these phases is the first step in positioning yourself for success. During the expansion phase, confidence is high. People are optimistic about the future. Investments pour in, and demand for commodities like silver rises. Prices begin to climb as more and more people participate in the market. At this point, everything feels like it's going well. There's a sense of momentum, and it's easy to think that the growth will continue indefinitely. But this is where the danger lies. Many people fail to recognize the subtle signs that indicate the market is nearing its peak. When prices are rising, it's easy to believe that they will continue to do so forever. This is when human emotions, fear of missing out, greed, and overconfidence can cloud judgment. The peak of the cycle is marked by unsustainable optimism. People continue to buy, thinking that the growth will never end. But the reality is that every cycle, no matter how strong, eventually reaches a point where it can no longer be sustained. The signs of this peak are often subtle at first. Growth slows down, but it's easy to ignore those signs when everyone around you is still talking about how great the market is. Prices may still be rising, but at a slower pace. This is the critical moment. It's when the cycle is about to shift, but most people are too caught up in the momentum to see it. From the peak, the cycle enters the contraction phase. This is when prices begin to fall. At first, the decline might seem small, but then, as fear sets in, the downward spiral accelerates. People start to panic and sell off their investments, driving prices even lower. The cycle is now in full contraction. During this phase, the mood shifts from optimism to pessimism. People start to question their decisions, and some may even lose faith in the market entirely. But here's the thing, this contraction phase is where the opportunities lie. If you understand the cycles and recognize when the market has hit its low point, its trough, you can position yourself to take advantage of the recovery that follows. The trough is the bottom of the cycle, the point where the market hits rock bottom and begins to turn around. It's during this phase that many people, worn down by fear and loss, are ready to give up. But this is exactly when the cycle starts to reverse. Silver, like many other commodities, will often hit its lowest point before slowly starting to recover. The key to success during this phase is patience. It's about recognizing the signs of the shift and waiting for the right moment to enter the market. Those who are able to buy during the trough are often the ones who see the greatest returns when the cycle moves back into the expansion phase. Understanding cycles isn't just about watching silver prices or the stock market. It's about understanding human nature and the forces that drive us. We are all part of this cycle, whether we realize it or not. Our emotions, our optimism, our fear, our greed shape the markets we invest in and the decisions we make. By becoming aware of these cycles and the emotional patterns that drive them, we can make more informed decisions. We can learn to ride the waves of the cycle, positioning ourselves for success at the right moments. Cycles are not just inevitable, they are opportunities. When you understand that the market is always in motion, always shifting between growth and contraction, you can prepare for each phase. You can position yourself not just to survive the cycles, but to thrive within them. It's about understanding that every downturn eventually gives way to an upturn, and every peak inevitably leads to a valley. The question is, are you prepared to take advantage of that? Because the world operates in cycles. Once you see that, you'll never look at it the same way again. We often look at uncertainty as something to fear, something to avoid. It's uncomfortable, unpredictable, and unsettling. But what if I told you that uncertainty is not only a part of life, it is a constant force that can be harnessed to your advantage. In fact, the greatest opportunities often emerge from the most uncertain of times. The key lies in learning to accept uncertainty and, more importantly, in understanding how to manage it. Life is inherently uncertain. It's the nature of the world we live in. We cannot predict everything, and we certainly cannot control every outcome. Despite our best efforts to plan, to strategize, and to anticipate, we will always face moments of unpredictability. Markets fluctuate, economies go through recessions, geopolitical events occur that we never see coming. In our personal lives, we face the unexpected. changes in relationships, health, and even our careers. The more we try to control every aspect of our lives, the more we'll find ourselves battling against forces that are beyond our control. This is where the concept of embracing uncertainty becomes not just important, but essential. If you want to succeed in any venture, whether it's investing, business, or life itself, you must first understand and accept that uncertainty will always be with us. The reality is that it is not about eliminating uncertainty, it's about learning to manage it. By accepting that we cannot predict every outcome with complete accuracy, we open ourselves to the possibility of greater success. We free ourselves from the paralyzing grip of fear and hesitation, and instead focus on how to make decisions in an uncertain world. One of the first steps in embracing uncertainty is to adopt a mindset that sees change as an opportunity rather than a threat. We often view change with fear because it disrupts our sense of stability and control. We want certainty. We want to know what will happen next, and we want to prepare for it. But this desire for certainty can hold us back. The truth is, change is the one constant in life, and by understanding that, you can shift your perspective to see it as a chance for growth rather than a source of anxiety. Take, for example, the stock market. The market is volatile, sometimes up, sometimes down, and always unpredictable. The price of silver or any other commodity fluctuates, often in ways that seem entirely random. It's easy to get caught up in the fear of loss when the market moves against you. But here's the thing, that very volatility, that very uncertainty, is what creates opportunities. The key is not to avoid uncertainty, but to learn how to leverage it. Those who are able to maintain their focus during times of uncertainty, who do not let their emotions drive their decisions, are the ones who can take advantage of the market's fluctuations. They understand that while they cannot predict every move, they can prepare themselves to act when the moment is right. This doesn't mean that you should dive into every uncertain situation blindly. Far from it. What it means is that instead of fearing the unknown, you should focus on increasing your ability to respond to it. Embrace the unknown, but do so with a foundation of knowledge and preparedness. By educating yourself, by studying patterns and trends, by understanding the forces that shape markets, you can make informed decisions even in times of uncertainty. The goal is to make decisions based on principles, not on emotions or impulsive reactions to market movements. In fact, the most successful people are not those who avoid uncertainty at all costs, but those who learn how to thrive within it. They have systems in place that allow them to manage risk and uncertainty. They are not afraid to make decisions, even when they don't have all the answers. And more importantly, they recognize that failure is a natural part of the process. Failure is not something to be feared, but something to be learned from. Every mistake, every misstep is an opportunity to learn and grow. But how can you prepare for uncertainty? How can you equip yourself to face the unpredictable nature of life and markets? The first step is to develop a mindset that is flexible and adaptable. Rigid plans will often fail when the unexpected happens. Life does not always unfold according to plan, and markets do not always behave as we expect. But those who are flexible in their thinking, who can adapt to changing circumstances, are the ones who can find success even in uncertain times. This doesn't mean abandoning your goals or your strategies. It means being willing to adjust your approach as new information becomes available. Another crucial aspect of managing uncertainty is understanding that there are always factors beyond your control. This is not a negative view, it's a realistic one. You cannot control the actions of others, the movements of the market, or the events that will unfold in the future. But what you can control is how you respond to those events. The key is to focus on what you can control, your decisions, your actions, your mindset. When you focus on the things within your control, you become more resilient in the face of uncertainty. Risk management is also a critical element of embracing uncertainty. When you face an uncertain future, you must be able to assess and manage the risks you're taking. This doesn't mean avoiding risk altogether. It means understanding it. In an uncertain world, risk is inevitable. But if you can quantify it, manage it, and spread it across different areas, you can protect yourself from the worst outcomes while still taking advantage of opportunities. Ultimately, the greatest lesson you can learn about uncertainty is this: it's not something to fear or avoid. It's something to accept, to understand, and to navigate. Uncertainty is the environment in which we live and operate, and learning to work within that environment is the key to success. Rather than letting uncertainty paralyze you, use it as a catalyst for growth and opportunity. The more you understand uncertainty and how to manage it, the more you'll be able to make informed decisions that will lead you to success, even in the most unpredictable of times. When we think about building wealth, many of us focus on the big, dramatic wins, the big bets that seem to promise immediate rewards. We hear about someone who made a fortune overnight by betting on the right stock or getting in early on a startup. We see those stories and think that's the path to success, the way to truly build something significant. But here's the reality. Most true wealth is not built from big, dramatic wins, but from the compound effect of small, consistent actions taken over time. It's the power of slow and steady, the ability to make decisions today that will pay off in the future. This principle applies not just to investing, but to every area of life. Compound growth works in ways that we often don't fully appreciate until we see it play out. Think about it. If you start with a small investment and it grows at a steady rate over time, the returns are not just on your initial investment, but on the returns themselves. This is the essence of compound interest, the idea that your money or efforts grows exponentially, not linearly. The more time you allow for that growth, the more significant the impact. If you understand this principle, you begin to realize that time is just as important as the initial action itself. It's not just about the decisions you make, but about how long you let those decisions play out. Imagine that you're looking at two people who have invested in the same asset. The first person is looking for quick gains. They want to see results in a matter of months. They jump from one opportunity to the next, trying to catch the next big trend or wave. The second person takes a slower, more deliberate approach. They invest consistently over time without worrying about the daily ups and downs. They allow their investment to grow at a steady pace year after year, reinvesting the returns, compounding them. Over time, it's clear that the second person's wealth will likely far exceed the first person's, even though their initial choices may not have seemed as exciting. It's tempting to focus on the short term, especially when everything around us seems to be moving at a fast pace. We're bombarded with news about the next big breakthrough, the new stock that's going to the moon, or the opportunity that promises quick riches. But that mindset is often a trap. The real magic of wealth and of long-term success comes from the ability to ignore the distractions and focus on the slow, steady accumulation of value. It comes from making decisions that are not driven by the immediate desire for a payoff, but by the belief that small, consistent efforts will lead to meaningful results over time. Let's consider this in the context of silver or any commodity. The price of silver can be volatile in the short term. It may go up and down in dramatic swings, affected by various factors like economic reports, geopolitical events, or market sentiment. But over the long run, silver has historically appreciated in value. Those who focus on short-term gains may find themselves caught in the ups and downs, making decisions based on fear or greed. But those who understand the power of compound growth, the idea that small, consistent investments over time can lead to significant wealth, will see the true value of silver's long-term growth. The compound effect also works on a broader scale when it comes to the choices we make in life. Let's take the example of learning a new skill. At first, the progress feels slow. You don't see dramatic changes in your ability after just a few days or weeks of practice. But if you commit to consistent effort over time, practicing every day, even if it's just for a short period, you'll start to see the results build up. The key is to remain patient, to understand that the value of consistent effort compounds over time. Each day you practice, each small improvement adds up. Over the course of months or years, the cumulative effect of your efforts will be enormous. This same principle applies to relationships, to personal growth, to health, and to business. When we make small, consistent improvements in these areas, the results may not be immediately visible. But over time, the impact of those small improvements grows exponentially. A small improvement in your productivity today may not seem like much, but that same improvement, compounded over time, can lead to dramatic changes in your life. The key to success is not to focus on the immediate results, but to recognize that every small step forward counts and contributes to the bigger picture. When it comes to investing, the principle of compound growth becomes even more powerful when we consider the role of reinvestment. When you receive returns on your investments, whether through dividends, interest, or capital gains, you have the option to reinvest those returns rather than spending them. By reinvesting, you allow your investment to grow at an even faster rate. This is where the true power of compounding comes into play. The more you reinvest, the more your money or assets grows. It's a snowball effect. Your wealth builds on itself. It's important to recognize that this process takes time. Many people get discouraged by the slow progress they see in the beginning, but the truth is that the most significant growth happens later on as the returns begin to compound and build on each other. This is why patience is crucial. Those who have the discipline to stay the course, who don't get distracted by the allure of quick gains, are the ones who will eventually experience the greatest returns. This is true not only in investing, but in all areas of life. The power of compounding is not just about financial growth. It's about understanding that consistent, incremental improvements over time lead to outsized results. Whether it's learning a new skill, building a business, or improving your health, the process is the same. Small efforts repeated over time compound into something much larger than the sum of the individual parts. The challenge is to remain focused, to keep making those small improvements, even when you don't immediately see the results. So think about where you are today and where you want to be in the future. Are you focused on the quick wins, the dramatic gains, or are you focused on making small, consistent improvements that will compound into something truly significant over time? The choice is yours, and the power is in your hands. Remember that slow and steady doesn't just win the race, it builds something far more lasting and valuable. The real key to success is to trust in the process, to stay committed, and to let the power of compounding work for you. When we think about the decisions that shape our lives, our businesses, our investments, our careers, most of us are guided by the information we have at hand, by the knowledge we believe to be true. But what happens when we realize that much of our decision making is based on assumptions, biases, and incomplete information? What happens when we open ourselves to the idea that we may be wrong, and that the most powerful tool we have is the ability to challenge our own thinking? This is where radical transparency and radical truthfulness come into play. The idea that we must not only seek truth, but embrace it fully, even when it is uncomfortable, even when it challenges our beliefs. The human mind is inherently biased. We all carry biases that shape the way we perceive the world, the way we make decisions, and the way we interpret information. These biases, whether conscious or unconscious, affect everything from the choices we make in our personal lives to the strategies we deploy in business. Often, these biases lead us to conclusions that are incomplete, inaccurate, or flat out wrong. We're hardwired to seek confirmation of what we already believe, to look for evidence that supports our existing ideas while ignoring information that contradicts them. But if we want to make better decisions, we need to confront these biases head on. We need to challenge our assumptions and adopt a mindset of radical transparency where we seek the truth, even if it's uncomfortable. Radical transparency is about being open, not just with others, but with ourselves. It's about confronting the uncomfortable truths that we often avoid and being willing to face reality even when it's difficult. In most situations, the truth is not obvious. It's often hidden beneath layers of assumptions, emotions, and incomplete information. In business, for example, leaders often make decisions based on the data they have at hand, but that data is often incomplete or misleading. People may present information in ways that support their own interests or agendas, creating an environment where the truth is obscured. Radical transparency forces us to peel back those layers, to dig deeper, to ask difficult questions, and to confront the reality of the situation, no matter how unpleasant it may be. But this is not easy. In fact, it's one of the most difficult things we can do. The reality is that people don't always want the truth. We want comfort. We want reassurance. We want to believe that we're right, that our decisions are sound, and that we're on the right path. Admitting that we've been wrong or that we didn't have all the information is uncomfortable. It feels like a personal failure, and so we often avoid the truth, and in doing so, we set ourselves up for bigger problems down the road. This is where the power of radical truthfulness comes in. Radical truthfulness is the practice of being completely honest, not just with others, but with ourselves. It means accepting the fact that we don't have all the answers and that our perspective is limited. It's about being brutally honest about our own weaknesses, our blind spots, and the areas where we need to improve. It's also about being honest when we don't know something, when we need help, or when we've made a mistake. We live in a world where it's often more acceptable to pretend to have all the answers, to appear confident and in control. But the most effective leaders, the most successful investors, and the most impactful individuals understand that true strength lies in being honest about what we don't know, in being transparent about our mistakes, and in embracing the idea that we are always learning. One of the biggest barriers to radical truthfulness is the fear of vulnerability. It takes courage to be open about our shortcomings, to admit when we've made a mistake, and to seek input from others. But this vulnerability is exactly what fosters trust and collaboration. In any organization or team, the ability to be honest about challenges and mistakes creates an environment where everyone can learn from one another, where the best ideas rise to the top, and where individuals can grow together. When we embrace radical transparency, we create a culture of open communication, where everyone is encouraged to share their thoughts, their concerns, and their ideas without fear of judgment or repercussion. This openness not only leads to better decisions, but also fosters a sense of shared purpose and accountability. Radical transparency and radical truthfulness don't just apply to organizations or teams. They are equally important in our personal lives. Think about the relationships that matter most to you. In every relationship, whether it's with a partner, a family member, or a friend, truth is the foundation of trust. If you're not honest with the people who matter most to you, if you're not transparent about your feelings, your needs, and your expectations, the relationship will never be as strong as it could be. It's not always easy to be truthful, especially when it means confronting uncomfortable truths about ourselves or others. But the more we practice radical truthfulness in our relationships, the deeper and more meaningful those relationships become. The challenge of radical transparency and radical truthfulness is not just about being honest with others, it's about being honest with ourselves. It's about confronting our own weaknesses, our own limitations, and our own biases. It's about questioning our own beliefs and assumptions and being open to the possibility that we may be wrong. The process of self-reflection, of constantly questioning and reassessing our own thinking, is a lifelong journey. But it's also the key to personal growth, to making better decisions, and to achieving success. When we're willing to be brutally honest with ourselves, we open ourselves up to new insights, new perspectives, and new opportunities for growth. When we embrace radical transparency and radical truthfulness, we don't just improve our decision-making, we improve our lives. We become more open-minded, more resilient, and more adaptable. We become better equipped to navigate the challenges of life, to face uncertainty, and to make decisions based on reality, not on our fears, biases, or assumptions. The ability to embrace the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it may be, is the key to unlocking our full potential. Both as individuals and as members of a larger community, it is not easy, but it is the path to growth, to success, and to lasting impact. So, the next time you face a difficult decision or a challenging situation, ask yourself, am I being completely transparent with myself? Am I being truthful, even if it's uncomfortable? Because that's where the real power lies. In navigating the complexities of life, business, and personal growth, we are constantly confronted with forces larger than ourselves, cycles, uncertainty, compounding effects, and the truth. The most successful individuals, those who thrive even amidst adversity, don't necessarily rely on sheer luck or a single bold move. Instead, they understand the power of patience, the value of long-term thinking, and the importance of radical transparency. They know that while the world may be unpredictable, there are principles, patterns, cycles, and truths that govern how everything works. By recognizing and accepting uncertainty, they position themselves to not only survive, but to seize opportunities when others are paralyzed by fear. They understand that wealth, success, and meaningful change come not from dramatic, overnight wins, but from small, consistent efforts over time. At the heart of these principles is an unwavering commitment to truth, both external and internal. Radical transparency and truthfulness, both with ourselves and others, allow us to move past the noise of ego, bias, and misperception. They empower us to make better decisions, to build stronger relationships, and to create environments where the best ideas can thrive. Embracing these ideas isn't easy, but it is necessary for true growth and long-term success. So, as you continue on your journey, remember that you are not just shaping your own path in isolation. You are part of larger systems, patterns, and cycles. Embrace the uncertainty, leverage the power of compound growth, and above all, commit to truthfulness in every decision you make. Because when you do, you are not only aligning yourself with the fundamental forces that shape success, you are setting the stage for breakthroughs, for deeper understanding, and for a future built on clarity and purpose.